My son-in-law called me a washed-up old chef in front of his investors. 24 hours later, his company got washed up permanently. I'm Edmund Crawford, 68 years old, 4 decades building Crawford's Heritage Kitchen into 8 profitable restaurants across the city. I've survived economic crashes, industry changes, and family heartbreak, but I never expected the biggest threat to come from my own son-in-law. Last Tuesday night, Tyler Brennan, my daughter Elena's husband, CEO of some tech startup called Brennan Innovations, stood in my flagship restaurant and told 4 potential investors that I was a dinosaur clinging to dead traditions. He used my private dining room, like his personal boardroom, dismissed my life's work as dead weight, and announced that my restaurants were hemorrhaging money while I served them the best beef Wellington they had ever tasted. What Tyler didn't know was that I was recording every word. What he really didn't know was that those 4 investors weren't investors at all. They were FBI informants, and Tyler had just confessed to a federal crime in front of witnesses. See, this story isn't about some old man getting revenge on a disrespectful son-in-law. This is about how a professional con artist tried to steal 40 years of honest work to cover his gambling debts, manipulated my daughter into signing forged documents, and borrowed money from loan sharks who break legs for a living. This is about how one tech bro's arrogance led him to target the wrong family. Like any dish worth serving, this story has layers, and each one reveals something darker than what came before. By the time we're done, you'll understand why some recipes can't be stolen, some legacies can't be faked, and some old chefs know exactly how to fillet a fraud scheme. I'm going to tell you how a washed-up old chef took down a multi-million-dollar criminal empire. And if you've ever been underestimated because of your age, your profession, or your old-school values, you're going to want to stick around for every twist in this tale. Drop a comment about your favorite local restaurant, because after hearing what happened to mine, you'll appreciate what real integrity tastes like. Last Tuesday evening, 7:30 sharp, I'm standing in my flagship restaurant, Crawford's Heritage Kitchen downtown, watching my son-in-law, Tyler Brennan, pitch his revolutionary tech solution to 4 potential investors. 8 restaurants I've built over 4 decades, each one a testament to craft and dedication. Tyler's using my private dining room like it's his personal boardroom. The restaurant industry is dying, Tyler announces, gesturing dismissively around my establishment. These old school operations are obsolete. We're talking about complete digital transformation. I'm serving them my signature beef Wellington, watching their faces light up with each bite. 40 years of perfecting that recipe. But Tyler's not done. Take Edmund here, he continues, pointing at me like I'm Exhibit A in his presentation. Classic example of a washed-up old chef clinging to dead traditions. The future is automation, AI-driven ordering, ghost kitchens. These dinosaurs just don't get it. The investors nod politely. One of them, a woman in her 50s, shoots me an apologetic glance. But Tyler's warming up now, riding his own arrogance. I mean, look at this place. Cloth napkins? Table service? It's like running a museum. The numbers don't lie. Traditional restaurants are hemorrhaging money while tech-forward operations dominate market share. I set down the wine I'm pouring and smile. 40 years in this business taught me one thing. Listen first, observe everything, then strike with precision. I reach into my pocket and discreetly tap my phone's recording app. Interesting perspective, Tyler. Tell me more about these numbers. Well, take Crawford's Heritage here. Sure, it has sentimental value, but from an investment standpoint, dead weight. Elena and I have been discussing more profitable uses for these properties. The land alone is worth more than whatever nostalgic revenue stream this generates. My daughter Elena shifts uncomfortably. She's been quiet all evening, which isn't like her. You've been discussing my restaurants? I ask, keeping my voice level. Modern business, Edmund. Everything's an asset to be optimized. Elena understands that, even if you don't. The investors are finishing their Wellington, clearly impressed with the food, despite Tyler's dismissal. One gentleman, older, maybe my age, catches my eye and nods appreciatively. Best meal I've had in years, he murmurs. Tyler laughs. See, that's exactly the problem. Emotional attachment to outdated experiences. In 5 years, operations like this will be extinct. I maintain my smile and keep recording. Sometimes the best ingredient is patience. I had no idea that in exactly 18 hours, Tyler's company would be the extinct one. Let me tell you about Crawford's heritage. Started in 1985 with a single location and a dream to create something lasting. Not just restaurants, a legacy. 8 locations now, each one profitable, each one built on the foundation that good food and honest business practices never go out of style. Elena joined the family business right out of college with her CPA degree. Smart as a whip, just like her mother was. She handles the books, manages our corporate structure, keeps everything running smooth while I focus on the culinary side. Perfect partnership, or so I thought. Elena met Tyler at some tech networking event 2 years ago. Brennan Innovations, he called his company, disrupting traditional business models through AI integration. Honestly, half the time I couldn't understand what he actually did. But Elena seemed smitten, and after her mother passed 3 years ago, I wanted my daughter to be happy. The wedding last year was beautiful. Small ceremony, tasteful reception at our flagship location. Tyler seemed decent enough then, ambitious, sure, but respectful. He even asked for my blessing before proposing, which I appreciated. But something changed after they got married. Tyler started attending our board meetings, offering strategic insights about modernizing operations. Elena began suggesting we consider technological partnerships and digital transformation initiatives, always with Tyler nodding approvingly in the background. "Dad, you have to think about the future," Elena would say during our monthly business reviews. "Tyler's shown me analytics that prove traditional dining models are declining. We need to adapt or get left behind." I listened. I'm not stubborn. I've survived 40 years in this business by adapting when necessary. But Tyler's suggestions always seemed to involve selling properties, reducing staff, cutting the personal touches that made Crawford's heritage special. "Trust me, Edmund," Tyler told me during one particularly heated discussion about converting our downtown location to a delivery-only operation. "I know digital markets. Elena knows the numbers. We're trying to save your legacy, not destroy it." That conversation happened 6 weeks ago. Elena backed him up completely, showing me spreadsheets and projections that painted a dire picture of our future profitability. The numbers looked professional, convincing, and Elena was my CPA. If she said we needed to make changes, maybe I was being too sentimental, so I started trusting them, giving Tyler access to certain business information, letting Elena handle more of the financial decisions. She was family, after all, and Tyler was her husband. Last month, Elena suggested Tyler join our corporate board. Just as an advisor, Dad, he has connections in the tech investment world that could really help us expand. The paperwork seemed straightforward. Elena explained everything, assured me it was just a formality to give Tyler legal standing to represent Crawford's heritage in certain business discussions. I signed the documents. Elena notarized them in her capacity as our corporate secretary. 2 weeks later, Tyler started mentioning potential investment opportunities for Crawford's heritage. Strategic partnerships with tech companies, opportunities to leverage our brand for digital expansion. "The key is moving fast," he'd say during family dinners. "These opportunities don't last long. Sometimes you have to be willing to put assets on the table to secure major growth." Elena would nod along, showing me more spreadsheets, more projections, always emphasizing urgency, always suggesting that traditional thinking would doom us to irrelevance. I should have seen it coming, should have trusted my instincts instead of my love for my daughter. Should have remembered that in the restaurant business, if something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. But I wanted to trust them. Elena was all the family I had left, and Tyler was her choice. If they truly believed these changes would secure our future, who was I to stand in the way? The morning after Tyler's washed-up old chef performance, I woke up feeling something I hadn't experienced in years. Doubt. Not about my cooking, never that, but about the people I'd chosen to trust. I made my usual breakfast, steel-cut oats, fresh berries, black coffee, and reviewed the previous evening's events. Tyler's arrogance hadn't surprised me, but his casual mention of discussing profitable uses for my properties with Elena, that felt different, more calculated. I was still thinking about it when my phone rang at 9:15 a.m. Mr. Crawford, this is Janet Morrison from Wells Fargo Commercial Lending. I'm calling about your loan payment that's now 30 days overdue. The $890,000 is secured by your restaurant properties? My coffee went cold in my hand. I'm sorry, there must be some mistake. I don't have any loans with Wells Fargo. Oh, sir, our records show you personally guaranteed a commercial loan dated 3 months ago. Account number 45218839. The collateral includes 6 of your Crawford's Heritage locations. 6 restaurants out of 8 total, the majority of everything I'd built. That's impossible. I never signed anything. Mr. Crawford, I'm looking at the documentation right now. Your signature, witnessed and notarized by Elena Crawford, listed as your corporate secretary. The phone felt heavy in my hand. Elena had handled the paperwork. Elena had notarized the signatures. Elena, my daughter, my trusted partner, my CPA. Where the hell was Tyler right now? I drove to Wells Fargo in a daze. 40 years of building something real, something lasting, and apparently it could all disappear with forged signatures on loan documents I'd never seen. Janet Morrison was a professional woman in her 40s, the kind of loan officer who'd probably seen every scam in the book. She laid out the paperwork like evidence at a crime scene. Commercial loan agreement dated September 15th. $890,000 principal, secured by real estate holdings of Crawford's Heritage LLC. She pointed to a signature that looked disturbingly like mine. Witnessed and notarized by Elena Crawford on behalf of Brennan Innovations as the borrowing entity. Brennan Innovations? That's my son-in-law's company. According to these documents, Mr. Crawford, Brennan Innovations is listed as a subsidiary of Crawford's Heritage, with Tyler Brennan as managing director and Elena Crawford as chief financial officer. My hands were shaking as I examined the papers. The signature looked right, too right. Someone had practiced. Ms. Morrison, I need you to understand something. I never signed these documents. I never authorized this loan. And Brennan Innovations is not a subsidiary of my company. She studied my face carefully. Mr. Crawford, are you alleging fraud? I'm alleging that someone forged my signature and used my daughter's position to steal $890,000 from your bank, using my restaurants as collateral. That's a very serious accusation. Do you have any evidence to support this claim? I thought about Tyler's performance last night, his casual mention of discussing profitable uses for my properties, his dismissive attitude about my dead-weight restaurants. Elena's uncomfortable silence. How long has this loan been in default? 30 days. The first payment was due October 15th, but we received notification from Brennan Innovations that they were experiencing temporary cash flow issues and requesting a 60-day extension. October 15th, 3 weeks after Tyler's pitch about urgent investment opportunities requiring assets on the table. Ms. Morrison, I need copies of every document in this file, and I need them today. Sir, I understand your concern, but these are confidential banking documents. These documents allegedly bear my signature authorizing a loan secured by my property. I believe I have a right to review what I supposedly signed. She hesitated, then nodded. I'll need to verify your identity and have you sign a release, but yes, you're entitled to copies of your own loan documents. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in my car outside the bank with a manila folder full of evidence. Loan application, credit verification, property appraisals, insurance documentation, all professionally prepared, all bearing signatures I'd never made, all dated from a period when Elena had been handling routine paperwork for corporate restructuring. The property appraisals were particularly interesting. 6 restaurants valued at $2.8 million total, more than enough to secure the $890,000 loan. Someone had done their homework. I called Elena's cell phone, straight to voicemail. I called the flagship restaurant. Crawford's Heritage downtown. This is Miguel. Miguel, it's Edmund. Is Elena there? No, sir. She called in sick this morning. Said she'd be working from home. Elena never called in sick. In 5 years of managing our finances, she'd missed maybe 3 days total. I drove to Elena and Tyler's apartment complex, one of those modern glass towers that Tyler loved showing off. The parking garage didn't have Tyler's BMW or Elena's Honda. I called Tyler's office number for Brennan Innovations. A receptionist with a bored voice answered, "Brennan Innovations, how may I help you? Is Tyler Brennan available? This is Edmund Crawford, his father-in-law. I'm sorry, Mr. Brennan is out of the office today. He's flying to the Cayman Islands for a client meeting. He'll be back Monday." Cayman Islands, where people go to hide money they don't want the government to find. I sat in my car outside Tyler's building, looking at loan documents that could destroy everything I'd spent my life building. Elena's signature appeared on every page, crisp and professional in her role as corporate secretary. But my signatures looked just a little too perfect, like someone had traced them from previous documents. Elena was either a victim or an accomplice. Tyler was either a genius or a criminal. Either way, I was about to find out which. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Mr. Crawford, this is Detective Amanda Foster, FBI Financial Crimes Unit. We need to talk." Detective Foster suggested we meet at a coffee shop downtown, away from Crawford's heritage and Tyler's usual haunts. She was younger than I expected, maybe 45, with the kind of sharp eyes that missed nothing. FBI shield, serious expression, manila folder that looked unfortunately familiar. "Mr. Crawford, thank you for meeting me on short notice. I understand you had an interesting conversation with Wells Fargo this morning. How did you Banks are required to report suspected fraud to federal authorities. Ms. Morrison flagged your loan situation as potentially fraudulent within an hour of your visit." She opened her folder. "We've been investigating Tyler Brennan's business activities for 8 months. 8 months. While I was trusting him with my family business, the FBI was building a case." "What kind of investigation?" "Financial fraud, specifically operating an investment scheme designed to defraud elderly and middle-class investors." She slid a photograph across the table. "These 4 people were at your restaurant last night, correct?" The investors from Tyler's pitch. I recognized them all. "Mr. Crawford, those weren't investors. They're victims. Each one lost between $50,000 and $150,000 to Brennan Innovations over the past year." My coffee went cold. "What are you talking about?" "Tyler Brennan has been running what's essentially a Ponzi scheme. He solicits investments for fake tech development projects, uses new investor money to pay returns to previous investors, and slowly drains the principal into personal accounts." She pointed to the woman who'd complimented my Wellington. "Mrs. Patricia Wells, retired teacher from Ohio. Lost her entire retirement savings, $127,000, believing she was investing in revolutionary restaurant automation technology." Revolutionary restaurant automation. Tyler's pitch suddenly made sense. He wasn't just insulting my business, he was using my restaurants as marketing material for his fraud. "How does this connect to my loan situation? We believe Tyler has escalated from small-scale investor fraud to bank fraud and money laundering. The $890,000 loan using your restaurants as collateral fits the pattern. He's probably planning to default on the loan, let the bank seize your properties, then claim the losses as business expenses while keeping the cash." "But Elena signed those documents. My daughter isn't a criminal." Detective Foster's expression softened slightly. "Mr. Crawford, we don't think Elena knows the full extent of Tyler's activities. Based on our investigation, we believe she's being manipulated and possibly coerced." "Coerced how?" "Tyler has a pattern of isolating his targets, making them dependent on him financially and emotionally, then gradually increasing pressure until they comply with illegal activities." She showed me another document. "Elena's personal finances have been completely merged with Tyler's. Joint bank accounts, shared credit cards, her name on business documents she probably doesn't fully understand. She's a CPA. She understands financial documents. She understands legitimate financial documents. Tyler's operation involves layers of shell companies, false documentation, and carefully constructed lies designed to confuse even professionals." Foster leaned forward. "How has Elena's behavior changed since marrying Tyler?" I thought about the board meetings, the urgent investment opportunities, the pressure to modernize everything immediately, Elena's increasing deference to Tyler's business judgment, her tendency to present his ideas as her own analysis. She's been different, more aggressive about business changes, always supporting Tyler's suggestions. Classic pattern. Tyler identifies someone with access to assets or expertise he needs, courts them intensively, then gradually takes control of their decision-making. She paused. Mr. Crawford, we have evidence that Tyler has been physically and emotionally abusive toward Elena, threatening divorce, financial ruin, even physical harm if she doesn't cooperate with his business activities. My hands clenched involuntarily. What kind of evidence? Hospital records. Elena was treated for anxiety and stress-related symptoms twice in the past 6 months. Her physician noted signs consistent with domestic abuse, but Elena denied any problems at home. Why didn't she come to me? Because Tyler's been telling her that you're financially naive, that your business is failing, that she's the only thing standing between you and bankruptcy. Foster showed me a printed email. We recovered this from Tyler's laptop during a previous investigation. Elena wrote to a friend expressing concern that Tyler might destroy Dad's restaurants if she didn't help him with his business plans. Elena knew, maybe not the full scope, but she knew something was wrong, and she'd been trying to protect me in the only way she thought she could. Detective Foster, what happens now? That depends partly on you. We have enough evidence to arrest Tyler for investor fraud, but the bank fraud involving your restaurants is newer territory. We need your cooperation to build a solid case. What kind of cooperation? Tyler's currently in the Cayman Islands, probably moving money offshore. He'll be back Monday, and when he returns, he's going to discover that his Ponzi scheme is collapsing. Previous investors are demanding their money, new investments have dried up, and his cash flow is about to hit zero. You're saying he's desperate. I'm saying he's dangerous. Men like Tyler don't admit defeat gracefully. When cornered, they escalate. She closed her folder. Mr. Crawford, we believe Tyler is planning to blame Elena for the bank fraud, present her as the mastermind who tricked her elderly father into signing loan documents, make himself look like another victim. Over my dead body. That might not be hyperbole. Tyler's associates include some people who don't handle financial losses well. She handed me her business card. We need to act fast. Tyler's plane lands Monday morning at 11:30. His flight was returning tomorrow, but I had a feeling his company was about to take a much more permanent trip down the drain. Monday morning, 9:15 a.m., I'm standing in federal district court watching a judge review Detective Foster's emergency motion for asset forfeiture. Marcus Webb, my attorney for the past 15 years, had pulled strings to get us in front of Judge Harrison on such short notice. Your Honor, Foster addressed the bench, the defendant Tyler Brennan is currently attempting to flee the country with proceeds from a multi-state fraud scheme. The government requests immediate freezing of all accounts associated with Brennan Innovations and its subsidiaries. Judge Harrison reviewed the paperwork with the methodical pace of a man who'd seen every financial scam imaginable. Detective Foster, you're alleging bank fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. These are serious charges. Yes, Your Honor. The defendant used forged documents to secure a $890,000 loan from Wells Fargo, with the victim's restaurants as collateral. Our investigation reveals this is part of a larger scheme that's defrauded at least 12 investors across 4 states. Marcus stepped forward. Your Honor, my client, Edmund Crawford, is the victim of identity theft and bank fraud. His signature was forged without his knowledge or consent. We respectfully request that the court freeze all assets acquired through these fraudulent activities. The judge's signature on the forfeiture order was crisp and final. Motion granted. All accounts, assets, and properties associated with Brennan Innovations are hereby frozen pending full investigation. By 10:30, federal marshals were executing seizure warrants. Tyler's BMW impounded. The corporate accounts frozen. The shared apartment secured. Even Elena's personal accounts were temporarily restricted pending investigation of her involvement. I called Elena's cell phone from the courthouse steps. This time she answered. Dad? Her voice sounded small, frightened. What's happening? Tyler called from the airport screaming about frozen accounts. He says the FBI thinks I'm some kind of criminal. Elena, where are you right now? Home. But Dad, I'm scared. Tyler was different on the phone, angry in a way I've never heard before. He's flying back early. He'll be here in 2 hours. Listen to me carefully. Do not be alone when Tyler gets home. Do you understand? Come to the restaurant immediately. Dad, I can't just leave. Tyler's my husband. If he's in trouble, I need to... Elena. I used the voice I'd perfected during 40 years of managing kitchen staff during dinner rushes. Tyler forged my signature on loan documents. He stole $890,000 from Wells Fargo, using our restaurants as collateral. The FBI has been investigating him for 8 months. Silence on the phone. Then quietly, I knew something was wrong. What do you mean? The paperwork he kept bringing home, the urgency about business decisions, the way he'd get angry if I asked too many questions about the numbers. Her voice broke slightly. Dad, I think I've been helping him without realizing it. We'll figure that out later. Right now, you need to get somewhere safe. He has keys to the restaurant, to all our locations. She was right. Tyler had copies of everything as a corporate board member. Then come to Marcus Webb's office. He's expecting you. Dad, there's something else. He gets angry when things don't go his way. Last month, when I questioned one of his business proposals, he grabbed my arm so hard it left bruises. I've been walking on eggshells around him. My hands tightened on the phone. 40 years of chef work had given me strong hands. Right now, I wanted to use them on Tyler's throat. Elena, just get to safety. We'll handle Tyler when he lands. I was halfway to Marcus's office when Detective Foster called. Mr. Crawford, Tyler's plane landed early. He's not heading home. He's driving straight to your flagship restaurant. Elena's not there. She's safe. Good. But Tyler's not alone. Our surveillance shows he's traveling with Vincent Romano. Who's Vincent Romano? Loan shark. Charges 25% monthly interest to people who can't get legitimate financing. Based on our investigation, we believe Tyler borrowed money from Romano to keep his Ponzi scheme running when investor funds ran low. The pieces clicked together. Tyler wasn't just a con artist. He was a gambler who'd bet other people's money and lost. Now his creditors wanted payment. How much does he owe Romano? Hard to say exactly, but our estimates suggest between $300,000 and $500,000. These aren't people who accept payment plans. And they think my restaurants are Tyler's assets. Exactly. They probably see those properties as collateral they can seize to cover Tyler's debts. I pulled into Marcus's office parking lot. Elena's Honda was already there, which was a relief. Detective Foster, what's your plan? We're setting up surveillance at your restaurant. If Tyler and Romano attempt to take possession of the property illegally, we'll have grounds for additional charges. What if they get violent? Mr. Crawford, I need you to stay away from the restaurant until this is resolved. These are not people you want to confront directly. I thought about Tyler's arrogance, his dismissive attitude toward everything I'd built, his casual cruelty toward Elena, his willingness to forge documents and steal from banks. Detective, I understand your concern, but those restaurants represent 40 years of my life. I'm not hiding while criminals try to steal them. Sir, I strongly advise... You said you needed my cooperation to build a case against Tyler. Well, here's your cooperation. I'm going to that restaurant. I'm going to confront Tyler and Romano. And I'm going to make sure every word of that conversation is recorded and admissible in court. Mr. Crawford, Detective, Tyler made one crucial mistake. He assumed I was just a washed-up old chef who didn't understand modern business. I started the engine. He's about to learn that I understand it better than he thinks. My phone buzzed with a text from Elena. Daddy, Tyler's calling and leaving voicemails. He says he's coming for you. Crawford's Heritage downtown, 11:30 a.m. I'm sitting in the private dining room where Tyler had humiliated me 48 hours earlier, recording app ready, waiting for a confrontation that would determine whether he kept my life's work or lost everything to a con artist and his criminal associates. Marcus had argued against this meeting. Detective Foster had threatened to arrest me for obstruction. Elena had begged me to stay away. But sometimes you have to stand your ground. Sometimes running away just means you'll be looking over your shoulder forever. Tyler arrived first, alone. He looked different from the confident presenter who'd called me a dinosaur. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his usually perfect hair disheveled. The arrogance was still there, but underneath it was something I recognized from 40 years in the restaurant business: desperation. Edmund. He didn't sit down, just stood in the doorway like he was ready to run. We need to talk. I'm listening. This FBI situation is a misunderstanding. Some disgruntled investors making false accusations because their returns weren't as high as they expected. He moved closer, trying to project confidence. But the federal investigation is creating problems for both of us. Both of us? Elena's signatures are on those corporate documents. If the FBI wants to pursue this fraud angle, she could be charged as an accessory. Tyler sat down across from me, leaning forward like we were conspirators. I can protect her, but I need your cooperation. I kept my expression neutral. What kind of cooperation? Simple. You confirm that you authorized those loan documents. Maybe you forgot signing them. You're getting older, memory isn't what it used to be. Honest mistake, no criminal intent. And in exchange, Elena stays out of prison. We restructure Brennan Innovations as a legitimate subsidiary of Crawford's heritage. You get to keep your precious restaurants. I get to continue my business activities. Everybody wins. Except Wells Fargo, who's out $890,000. Tyler waved dismissively. Banks have insurance for bad loans. They'll recover their money eventually. I studied his face, noting the micro-expressions that revealed what he really thought. The slight sneer when he mentioned my age, the calculating look when he discussed Elena's legal exposure, the complete absence of remorse about stealing nearly $1 million. Tyler, I have a question. Sure. Do you actually think I'm stupid? His mask slipped for just a moment. What do you mean? I mean, do you genuinely believe I'm some doddering old fool who can't understand basic financial fraud? I pulled out my phone, showing him the recording app. Because I've been recording this conversation from the moment you walked in. Tyler's face went white. You can't. Actually, I can. Single-party consent state. Everything you just said about forging loan documents, manipulating Elena, defrauding banks, all perfectly admissible in court. He lunged for my phone, but 40 years of kitchen work had kept me quicker than he expected. I pulled it back, then set it deliberately on the table between us. Sit down, Tyler. Edmund, you don't understand the situation you're in. I have associates who don't appreciate interference in their business interests. You mean Vincent Romano? Tyler's shock was genuine. How do you know that name? Same way I know about the 12 investors you've defrauded. The same way I know about your Ponzi scheme, your money laundering, your threats against Elena. I leaned back in my chair. Tyler, the FBI has been investigating you for 8 months. They know everything. You're lying. Am I? Then why are your accounts frozen? Why did federal marshals impound your car? Why is Elena hiding in a lawyer's office instead of coming home to her loving husband? Tyler's composure cracked completely. You sanctimonious old bastard. You have no idea what kind of pressure I'm under. Romano doesn't care about your family legacy or your precious restaurants. He wants his money, and if I can't pay, he'll take it out of Elena's hide. How much do you owe him? $400,000, plus interest, plus penalties for late payment. Tyler's voice was rising. You think your FBI friends can protect Elena from people like that? They don't care about federal investigations. They care about collecting debts. So you decided to steal my restaurants to pay your gambling debts. I decided to leverage underutilized assets to save both our lives, Tyler was shouting now. These restaurants are sitting on prime real estate worth millions. Converting them to modern, profitable operations could generate enough cash flow to satisfy Romano and create legitimate returns for my investors. By forging my signature and committing bank fraud. By taking necessary action while you stood around mourning the good old days, he pointed accusingly. Elena sees it. She knows we need to modernize or die. She's been trying to convince you for months that changes are necessary. Elena's been trying to save me from you. Elena loves me. She'll do whatever it takes to protect our marriage. Really? Let's ask her. I pressed a contact on my phone. Elena answered immediately. Dad, are you okay? Elena, I'm here with Tyler. He's explaining how you've been helping him defraud banks and steal restaurants because you love him so much. Tyler grabbed for the phone again. Elena, don't listen to him. Tell your father. Tyler? Elena's voice came through clearly. Tyler, is that you? Baby, this is all a misunderstanding. Well, your father is making this worse for both of us. We can fix this if you just... Tyler, I know about the forged signatures. I know about the fake investor presentations. I know about Vincent Romano. Elena's voice was steady, stronger than I'd heard it in months. I've been working with the FBI for 2 months. The silence in the room was complete. Tyler stared at the phone like it had bitten him. What did you say? I said I've been working with Detective Foster since September, recording conversations, copying financial documents, building a case against you for fraud and domestic abuse. You recording this conversation too, Edmund? Tyler's question hung in the air like smoke from a burned dinner. Outside Crawford's Heritage, I could see a black SUV pulling into the parking lot. Vincent Romano had arrived. Elena, I said into the phone, are you safe? Yes, Dad. Detective Foster is here with me. We're monitoring everything. Tyler was staring out the window, watching 2 men in expensive suits get out of the SUV. His face had gone completely pale. Edmund, you have no idea what you've done. Romano doesn't care about FBI investigations or recorded conversations. He cares about collecting debts. Maybe you should have thought about that before borrowing money from loan sharks. You think this is a joke? You think your federal friends can protect you from people who break legs for a living? The restaurant's front door chimed. Heavy footsteps on hardwood floors heading toward our private dining room. Mr. Brennan? The voice belonged to a man who probably hadn't smiled since childhood. We need to discuss your payment schedule. Vincent Romano looked exactly like Central Casting would order for a mob enforcer. 6'3", broad shoulders, expensive suit that couldn't quite hide what was probably a shoulder holster. His companion was younger, but carried himself with the same predatory confidence. Vincent, Tyler stood up, trying to project calm. I told you I'd have your money by the end of the week. End of the week was last week, Mr. Brennan. Then it was yesterday. Now you're telling me the FBI froze your accounts. Romano's voice was conversational, which somehow made it more threatening. That creates complications. Temporary setback. The restaurant properties are still valuable assets. We can work out a payment plan. We? Romano noticed me for the first time. You must be Mr. Crawford. Tyler's told me a lot about you. I stayed seated, keeping my phone's recording app visible on the table. Has he mentioned that he's been stealing from me? Romano's laugh was genuinely amused. Stealing? Mr. Crawford, Tyler borrowed money from me to invest in your business operations. According to him, you're partners. According to him, I'm a washed-up old chef whose restaurants are dead weight. Interesting. Romano sat down without being invited. Tyler, you want to explain this contradiction? Tyler was sweating now. Vincent, there's been some miscommunication about the corporate structure. Edmund is resistant to modernization, but the assets are solid. The assets are mine, I said quietly. Tyler forged my signature on loan documents. He's been running a Ponzi scheme using my restaurants as marketing material. The FBI has evidence of bank fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. Romano studied my face with professional interest. You're serious? Dead serious. Tyler, is this true? It's complicated, Vincent. The old man doesn't understand modern business practices. Did you forge his signature? Tyler's silence was answer enough. Romano leaned back in his chair. Tyler, you borrowed $400,000 from me. You told me it was secured by legitimate business assets owned by your wife's family. You're now telling me those assets don't actually belong to you? The restaurants are worth over $2 million. The collateral is solid. The collateral belongs to someone else. Romano's voice had turned cold. Someone who says you're a thief. Vincent, I can explain. Here's what's going to happen. Romano stood up slowly. You're going to repay my $400,000, plus interest, plus penalties, plus compensation for wasting my time with fraudulent collateral. How much total? $600,000. By Friday. Tyler's legs gave out. He sat down hard in his chair. Vincent, I don't have that kind of money. The FBI froze everything. Then you have a problem. Romano turned to me. Mr. Crawford, I apologize for the confusion. Tyler represented himself as having legitimate business interests. I don't lend money to thieves. What happens to Tyler if he can't pay? That's between Tyler and me. I looked at Tyler, slumped in his chair like a deflated balloon. 2 days ago, he'd stood in this same room calling me obsolete, dismissing 40 years of honest work as dead weight. Now he was begging a loan shark for more time to pay debts he'd never be able to cover. Vincent, can I make a suggestion? I'm listening. Tyler's committed federal crimes that carry serious prison time. Money laundering, bank fraud, wire fraud. He's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. Your point? My point is that Tyler's going to prison whether he pays you or not. But if he cooperates with federal investigators, provides information about other criminal activities, he might get a reduced sentence. Romano's expression didn't change. You suggesting he inform on people? I'm suggesting he tell the truth about where your money went. Who else he borrowed from? What other schemes he's been running? I paused. Information like that might be valuable to federal investigators. Tyler was staring at me with something approaching hatred. You want me to become a federal informant? I want you to face the consequences of your choices. Prison time for the fraud, restitution to your victims, and cooperation with law enforcement to shut down other criminals you've been working with. And if I refuse, Romano answered before I could, then you owe me $600,000 by Friday, and we handle this matter privately. Tyler looked between us, realizing his options had narrowed to prosecution or violence. There's a third option, I said quietly. What? Elena's been recording conversations with you for 2 months. The FBI has documentation of domestic abuse, financial coercion, and threats against her safety. I leaned forward. You could take full responsibility for everything. Admit that Elena was manipulated and coerced. Agree to testify that she was a victim, not an accomplice. Why would I do that? Because Elena's my daughter, and if you hurt her reputation or her future, Vincent Romano will be the least of your problems. The threat hung in the air for a moment. Then Tyler laughed bitterly. The washed-up old chef thinks he's going to intimidate me? I picked up my phone and ended the recording. 47 minutes of Tyler admitting to fraud, Romano confirming loan sharking, and both of them discussing criminal activities in detail. Tyler, I've spent 40 years building something real. You've spent 2 years tearing it down. I stood up slowly. But here's what you never understood about the restaurant business. When someone tries to poison your reputation, you don't get mad. You get even. I walked toward the door, then turned back. Oh, and Tyler? Vincent? The FBI has been listening to this entire conversation through Elena's phone. The look on both their faces was worth 40 years of patient planning. Wednesday, 2 p.m., Crawford's Heritage downtown had been transformed into an FBI operations center. Detective Foster and 2 federal agents had spent the morning installing surveillance equipment throughout the restaurant, turning my flagship location into a trap designed to catch Tyler's complete criminal organization. Wire specifications are simple, Agent Rodriguez explained, as he fitted the recording device under my shirt collar. Voice activation, 8-hour battery life, transmission range of 200 yards to our monitoring station. I felt like a character in a crime movie, except the stakes were my life's work and my daughter's future. Mr. Crawford, are you certain you want to proceed with this? Detective Foster reviewed the operation plan one final time. Tyler's desperate, possibly violent, and he now knows that Elena's been cooperating with us. He also knows that Vincent Romano wants $600,000 by Friday, and that federal charges are inevitable. I adjusted the wire, making sure it wasn't visible under my shirt. Desperate men make mistakes. Elena had spent the previous evening providing detailed briefings about Tyler's business operations, his criminal associates, and the full scope of his fraudulent activities. The picture that emerged was worse than anyone had suspected. Tyler's been running multiple schemes simultaneously, Elena explained during the planning session. The restaurant fraud was just his latest attempt to cover losses from earlier cons. He owes money to at least 3 different criminal organizations. How did he manage multiple Ponzi schemes without getting caught? Shell companies, false identities, constantly moving money between accounts to create the illusion of legitimate business activity. Elena pulled out financial documents she'd been secretly copying for months. He told investors in Scheme A that their money was funding tech development. He told investors in Scheme B that their money was funding real estate ventures. He told investors in Scheme C that their money was funding cryptocurrency trading. Where was the money actually going? Personal expenses, gambling debts, payments to previous investors to maintain the illusion of returns, and increasingly desperate attempts to borrow from loan sharks when new investor funds dried up. Detective Foster had studied the documents with professional admiration. Elena, this documentation is extraordinary. How did you gather all this without Tyler noticing? He thought I was too love-struck and financially naive to understand what he was really doing. He'd leave documents around the apartment, take phone calls in front of me, even ask me to help with paperwork without explaining what it was for. Elena's voice carried a mixture of shame and determination. I realized something was wrong about 3 months ago, but I didn't know how serious until Detective Foster contacted me. Now, sitting in my restaurant with federal surveillance equipment recording every sound, I was about to find out just how serious Tyler's situation had become. Target approaching from the south entrance, Agent Rodriguez reported through my earpiece. Single individual, appears to be Tyler Brennan. Tyler entered through the kitchen, using his corporate key access. He looked haggard, like someone who hadn't slept in days. His expensive suit was wrinkled, and his usually perfect appearance suggested a man losing control of every aspect of his life. Edmund. He didn't sit down, just paced near the windows like a caged animal. We need to make a deal. I'm listening. Romano's given me until Friday. That's 2 days. The only asset I can leverage is my position with Crawford's Heritage. Your position was terminated when you forged my signature on loan documents. Elena's still my wife. Community property laws give me claim to her assets. I kept my voice level, remembering that federal agents were recording every word. Elena's assets consist of her salary from Crawford's Heritage and whatever personal savings she had before marrying you. Elena's been managing corporate finances for 5 years. She has signing authority on business accounts, corporate credit cards, access to company assets. Tyler stopped pacing and faced me directly. I need $600,000 by Friday. The restaurant accounts contain more than enough to cover that amount. You're talking about stealing money from my business to pay your gambling debts. I'm talking about leveraging family assets to solve a temporary cash flow problem by committing additional federal crimes. Tyler's facade finally cracked completely. Edmund, you self-righteous old fool. Romano doesn't care about federal crimes. If I don't pay him by Friday, he'll hurt Elena to send a message. Is your precious moral high ground worth your daughter's safety? Elena's perfectly safe. She's under federal protection. Federal protection ends eventually. Romano's memory doesn't. I stood up slowly, making sure the wire captured every word of our conversation. Tyler, you made one crucial mistake throughout this entire operation. What mistake? You assumed I was just a washed-up old chef who didn't understand modern criminal enterprise. His eyes narrowed. Meaning what? Meaning you're about to discover exactly how well I understand it. Tyler's confusion lasted exactly 10 seconds. Then Detective Foster and Agent Rodriguez entered through the kitchen door, followed by Elena and 2 additional federal agents. Tyler Brennan, you're under arrest for bank fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, and racketeering conspiracy. Detective Foster's voice was crisp, professional. You have the right to remain silent. Tyler's reaction was everything I'd hoped for. Complete panic, desperate scrambling, and most importantly, a complete confession in front of federal witnesses. Elena, what are you doing with them? Elena stepped forward, wearing her own wire equipment openly now. Tyler, I've been working with the FBI since September. Every conversation we've had for the past 2 months has been recorded. You can't do this to me. I'm your husband. You forged my signature on legal documents. You threatened to have me killed if I didn't cooperate with your fraud schemes. You stole my father's life work to pay gambling debts. Elena's voice was steady, strong. You're not my husband. You're a criminal who's been using me. Tyler lunged toward Elena, but Agent Rodriguez intercepted him efficiently. Mr. Brennan, I strongly recommend you remain calm and cooperate with this arrest. Cooperate? You people have no idea what you're dealing with, Tyler was shouting now, his composure completely shattered. Romano doesn't care about federal arrests. He has people inside prison systems. Elena will never be safe. Tell us about Romano's organization, Detective Foster suggested. Names, locations, financial structures, information like that could significantly reduce your prison sentence. I'm not informing on Vincent Romano. Do you know what happens to informants in federal prison? We know what happens to people who don't cooperate with federal investigations, Agent Rodriguez has replied. 15 to 20 years minimum, no possibility of early release. Tyler looked around the room wildly, realizing his options had evaporated. Elena stood with the federal agents, clearly aligned against him. I sat calmly, no longer the washed-up old chef he'd dismissed. His criminal empire was collapsing, his debts were unpayable, and his freedom was measured in minutes. This is insane, Tyler muttered. Edmund, Elena, we're family. You can't destroy family over money. You destroyed our family the moment you forged my signature, I replied quietly. Everything since then has been consequences. Elena, baby, please. Tell them this was all a misunderstanding. You know I love you. Elena's response was devastating in its simplicity. Tyler, love doesn't threaten. Love doesn't steal. Love doesn't forge signatures or manipulate bank loans or borrow money from loan sharks. She paused. And love doesn't grab someone's arm hard enough to leave bruises when they ask questions about suspicious financial activity. Tyler's face went white. The domestic abuse allegations would add years to his federal sentence, and everyone in the room knew it. You recorded private conversations between husband and wife. I recorded criminal conspiracies between a con artist and his victim, Elena corrected. The fact that we were married doesn't make fraud legal. Detective Foster stepped forward. Mr. Brennan, we have 47 minutes of audio recording from your conversation with Mr. Crawford and Vincent Romano on Monday. We have 2 months of conversations with Elena, documenting threats, coercion, and admission of multiple felonies. We have bank records, forged documents, and testimony from 12 defrauded investors. What we don't have, Agent Rodriguez added, is information about Romano's loan sharking operation, your other criminal associates, or the full scope of your Ponzi schemes. That information could be very valuable. Tyler was silent for a long moment, calculating his remaining options. If I cooperate, what kind of deal are we talking about? Depends on the quality of information you provide. Full cooperation, complete financial disclosure, testimony against other criminals in your network, that could reduce your sentence from 20 years to maybe 8 or 10. And if I don't cooperate? 20 years minimum, possibly more when Romano's organization retaliates against witnesses. Detective Foster's tone was matter-of-fact. Federal prison, general population, no protective custody unless you're providing valuable intelligence. Tyler looked at Elena one final time. All those months of playing the loving wife, you were wearing a wire? All those months of playing the loving husband, you were stealing from my father and threatening my life. Elena, I never meant... Yes, you did. Every signature you forged, every lie you told investors, every dollar you stole, you meant all of it. Elena's voice carried a sadness that broke my heart. The only thing you didn't mean was loving me. Tyler's shoulders sagged in defeat. What do you want to know about Romano? Everything. Names, locations, financial operations, criminal associates, corruption networks. Detective Foster pulled out a digital recorder. And Tyler, this confession needs to be complete and truthful. Any lies or omissions void the plea agreement and put you back to 20 years minimum. Tyler nodded slowly. Vincent Romano operates out of a restaurant supply company in Queens. Legitimate front business, but the real money comes from loan sharking, money laundering, and protection rackets targeting small business owners. For the next hour, Tyler provided detailed information about Romano's criminal organization, his own criminal network, and the full scope of fraudulent activities that had destroyed dozens of lives and stolen millions of dollars. Elena sat beside me during Tyler's confession, holding my hand while her husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, dismantled the criminal empire that had nearly destroyed our family. Dad, she whispered, I'm so sorry I didn't come to you sooner. You came to me when it mattered most. That's what counts. Outside, federal agents were arresting Vincent Romano and three associates based on Tyler's information. The washed-up old chef had just taken down a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise. 6 months later, I was reading the final FBI report when Elena walked into my office with a stack of legal documents and an expression I hadn't seen since before she'd married Tyler. "Dad, it's over." Elena set the papers on my desk. Divorce decree, financial restitution orders, federal sentencing documents. Tyler had received 12 years in federal prison after full cooperation with authorities. Vincent Romano got 18 years for racketeering and loan sharking. The FBI recovered $1.2 million in stolen investor funds. Wells Fargo dropped all claims against Crawford's heritage properties. And the federal court awarded us full restitution for damages to our business reputation. I reviewed the documents, noting the precision with which federal prosecutors had dismantled Tyler's criminal network. 23 arrests across 4 states. $3.8 million in stolen funds recovered. Dozens of victims finally receiving justice. "Elena, there's something I need to tell you about these past 6 months." She sat down across from my desk, the same chair where she'd presented Tyler's business proposals that had nearly destroyed everything we'd built. "I've been investigating you." Her eyebrows raised. "Investigating me?" "Hiring independent auditors to review every financial transaction you handled during Tyler's fraud. Every signature, every account transfer, every corporate decision you made as our CFO. Elena's face went pale. "Dad, I thought you trusted—" "I do trust you. But trust isn't enough after what we've been through. Our family business requires absolute financial integrity, and I needed independent verification that you were truly a victim, not an accomplice." I slid a thick auditor's report across the desk. Elena opened it with trembling hands. "What did they find?" "They found that you were manipulated by a professional con artist who exploited your trust, your love, and your desire to help your family." I pointed to specific sections of the report. "Every questionable transaction was initiated by Tyler. Every forged document was created without your knowledge. Every corporate decision you supported was based on false financial projections that Tyler provided." Elena's relief was visible. "So I didn't accidentally—" "Elena, you were a victim of sophisticated psychological manipulation and financial fraud. The auditors found no evidence of criminal intent or knowing participation in Tyler's schemes. But I should have seen the signs. I'm a CPA. I should have recognized—" "You should have recognized what? That your husband was a sociopathic criminal who'd spent months grooming you to trust his judgment over your own?" I leaned back in my chair. "Elena, Tyler's previous victims included a retired FBI accountant, a former bank president, and a certified financial planner. This wasn't about your professional competence. This was about targeted manipulation by someone who studies how to exploit trust." Elena was quiet for a long moment, processing 6 months of guilt and self-doubt. "Dad, where do we go from here?" "We rebuild." Crawford's heritage has survived 40 years of economic downturns, industry changes, and now criminal fraud. We're still here because we've always been built on something stronger than quarterly profits. "What's that?" "Family. Real family. Not the fake version Tyler was selling, but the actual commitment to each other's success and happiness." Elena smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her in over a year. "Does this mean I'm still your CFO?" "Elena, you're not just my CFO. You're my daughter, my business partner, and the person I trust most in the world." I pulled out another set of documents. "But I do have a new proposal for our corporate structure." "What kind of proposal?" 50-50 partnership, Crawford and Crawford Heritage Kitchens, equal ownership, equal responsibility, equal authority." Elena stared at the partnership agreement, tears forming in her eyes. "Dad, I don't deserve—" "You deserve a father who recognizes that you're not a child anymore. You're a professional who made one mistake, trusting someone who didn't deserve it." I stood up and walked around the desk. "You deserve a business partner who learned that experience and wisdom mean nothing without trust and communication." Elena hugged me tightly. "The student becomes the master. The student becomes the partner." 1 year later, Crawford and Crawford Heritage Kitchens had not only recovered from Tyler's fraud, we'd expanded. 2 new locations, a catering division, and a consulting service for restaurants dealing with financial crime. The FBI had asked us to develop training materials for business owners about recognizing and preventing financial fraud. Elena and I found ourselves teaching seminars for the Small Business Administration, sharing our story with other family business owners who needed to understand the warning signs we'd missed. The most sophisticated fraud isn't about forged documents or fake accounts, Elena would tell audiences of restaurant owners and retailers. It's about emotional manipulation designed to make you doubt your own judgment. I would add the perspective of 40 years in business. Trust is essential in family enterprises, but trust without verification is just naivety with good intentions. Our story had attracted media attention. Local newspapers, business journals, even a segment on a national news program about family business fraud. Elena handled most of the interviews with professional composure I admired. My father built something real over 4 decades, she told a reporter from Restaurant Business magazine. Tyler tried to steal that in 4 months, but real value, the relationships with customers, the reputation for quality, the commitment to community, those things can't be fraudulently obtained or easily destroyed. Tyler was serving his sentence at a federal correctional facility in Pennsylvania. I received periodic updates from his victims about restitution payments and his cooperation with ongoing criminal investigations. Elena had no contact with him, and according to her attorney, Tyler had agreed never to attempt contact after his release. Do you ever regret how everything turned out? Elena asked during our monthly business review last week. I regret that you had to endure emotional abuse and manipulation. I regret that 12 investors lost their retirement savings. I regret that it took a criminal investigation to teach me about modern financial crime. But I don't regret fighting back. I don't regret standing up for what we built together. And I don't regret learning that my daughter is stronger and smarter than either of us knew. Elena smiled. Strong enough to be your business partner? Strong enough to take over the business entirely when I'm ready to retire. Are you ready to retire? I looked around Crawford's Heritage downtown, the restaurant where this story began with Tyler's arrogant dismissal of everything I'd accomplished. Customers filled every table, enjoying food prepared with the same care and precision that had sustained us for 40 years. Elena, real chefs don't get washed up. We just get more experienced, more precise, and more protective of what we've built. And more suspicious of tech bros offering investment opportunities? Infinitely more suspicious, but also more confident about our ability to handle whatever comes next. Some recipes improve with age. Some battles are worth fighting. And some legacies are strong enough to survive any attempt to wash them away.